everyone, and welcome to the second episode of hashtag Every Role Matters Roundtable, the Rolling Initiative series. Today I have with me the lovely Dr. Megan Connell and the fantastic Matthew Lillard. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I'm going to have you introduce yourselves so that the audience knows who you are if they don't already. Let's start with Matt.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Lillard. I'm an Aquarius. I like long walks on the beach. I am an actor by profession. I have been in lots of movies in the 90s. I'm now on a television show called Good Girls on NBC. And about 3 years ago, I started a company called Beadle and Grimm's. And we create high-end boxed editions of Dungeons and Dragons releases. We right now have a Kickstarter going for Pathfinder, and that I started with 4 of my best friends, and the 5 of us are having a midlife crisis, starting a Dungeons and Dragons company. And I'm an avid gamer, and I've been playing games since I was 9 years old, and played all the way through. I'm 50 now, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Megan?
absolutely.
Megan, who are you, and what are all those initials after your name?
I'm Dr. Megan. I'm a board certified psychologist. So that's what most of the initials are, because that took a lot of work. And so I throw all those letters after my name a lot because that was really hard.
What is the difference between a board certified and a psychiatrist?
So psychiatrist is an MD, and so I'm a psychologist. So I have my doctorate in psychology. So psychologists do more of the talk therapy, or psychiatrists prescribe more of the medications. However, in some states now, psychologists are also prescribing medications, so the line is starting to blur a bit more.
Okay, nice. All
and
right.
then board certified. Yeah, that means what I did was I sent work samples in and writing samples, and then took an extra set of face-to-face board examinations to prove that I know what I'm doing. And they gave me a certified stamp that, yes, you do seem to know what you're doing ethically and following best practices. And I have to pay the money every year to keep the initials after my name.
I think it sounds good. I want to be board certified in something. Who could board certify me?
Yeah.
I will not do the test or the extra education or the writing, but I want to be board certified. I feel so much safer now. This is the safest I've ever felt on a podcast. I'm glad you're here, Megan. You need to help me.
I'll keep things in the boxes, right?
Yes. So the idea here is today's episode theme is kind of talking about parents being able to use gaming to help and connect with their children. So that's kind of the theme here. Obviously, we have two very knowledgeable people, so we're gonna probably have some stories along with it. So we're gonna kind of hop in. I know, Matt, you said you had a story you wanted to share first, so we can kind of go with that. Before we started recording, we were talking about dice. So
what was I saying? Well, I was gonna say something. Well, first of all, we were talking about dice, and there's a woman I found on Patreon named Yenir. And I got a pair of dice that I was really excited about, but I don't think that's very interesting at all for the pod. But I wanted to show you guys my dice that are brand new. They're like resin and they're beautiful.
Those are beautiful.
I gotta ask Matt though, are you a dice dragon? Like you have tons of dice, or
I don't.
Minimalist?
It's not my jam. Look, within reach, I have very specifically, I have my dice that I love at my desk, in case combat breaks out at any second.
Me too.
At my desk, I've got the quick tray, but then in case of emergencies, I also have this. So.
Oh yeah, you don't know if when your dice get hot, you have to have when you get cold, you have to have new dice.
Yeah.
But I've just never in my life been a collector. I look at the shelves behind you, and I just immediately think, Fenway, I would get divorced if that was anywhere in my life, and. I'm just not a collector. I think that there are people out there in the world that are that love that sort of moment of hunting and finding, and I've just never been that guy. Are you, Megan? Are you a dice?
I like to collect things. Yeah, I have
that expression. I love that expression.
Yeah. No, I love collecting things and having stuff. I was just kind of thinking too, I was like, how cool is it that you're not a collector, yet your company is all about making like really cool kind of collectible things?
It's funny, right? Sorry, but we haven't. Sorry, yeah, I thought we just jumped over your introduction, but you did introduce. Where do you live, Megan?
I'm in North Carolina, and actually, the other thing I'll plug too is I am the co-founder of a company called Geeks Like Us, where we're a community-based entertainment company. So we like to highlight geek passions and people who have become professional geeks and using their passions and turning that into a career.
Oh,
I've
wow.
found that with a couple other psychologists because we'd identify as geeks first and kind of everything else second.
Nice. And Fenway, where are you in the world?
I am in Michigan. Yeah, so that's
Where in Michigan?
I'm just south of Flint.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in Michigan. Did you know that?
I did know that, yes. I invited you to the live Michigan event before
Oh, yes,
COVID
that's
happened.
right. That's right. Yeah.
But then COVID happened, and so
Damn it.
then we all went into quarantine. But
We're
yeah,
all in these boxes now.
we're all in the boxes. But my kind of introduction for everybody who doesn't know is I'm Fenway Jones. You may know me on Twitter as Fenway the Teen DM, but I am the founder of Jasper's Game Day, and I am the host for today's show. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited. So this is going to be as much of a discussion as we can make it. So the questions are going to be directed at one person, but obviously if the other person wants to jump in, you are absolutely welcomed to. So Matt, we're going to start with you. How often do you play D&D with your kids? What sort of positive effects has this had on your relationship with them and you personally?
Yeah, it's interesting. I wish I had a really great answer. I mean, I wish I could say we play once a week, but we don't. I think we played our first game 6 years ago. So my son now is 12. So probably when he was 6 is when he started.
Wow.
We have a game that we play with the family that's very like in our pod. We love them and we see them all the time. And we play with them, but as the kids have gotten older and as I have started to create this Dungeons and Dragons company, we play less and less, to be honest. So I wish there was a better answer. Megan, do you have kids?
I do. I have 4.
And
3
do you
at
play
home.
with them a lot?
Not a lot, not as kind of similar to you, like not as much as I would like. I think 6 or 7 years ago was when I started playing with the older 2. And then like I have young ones who are in kindergarten and first grade. And so one of the things that we'll do sometimes before their virtual school day starts is we play D&D, which is they have all their dice. They don't have a character sheet. I just instruct them on what to do. And like if we're working on adding 8, suddenly 8 is their modifier to everything.
That's fun. That's good. You're a good mom. I'm a terrible dad. So I wish we played more, but we, and now we have 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 12-year-old. They're not as interested anymore as playing with me as they used to be. And I've sort of missed that window of opportunity. I mean, I could still go back because they actually really love to play. But there was a time when if I had done a game every weekend, they would have played. And I just, that thing of like, just, I was too busy or got overwhelmed or what, I regret that now.
Yeah, that's understandable. But we all have those experiences in life.
Yeah, I think it's an
Do you play with your dad?
I do. I do play with my dad. We actually play once a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great. That's awesome. You should keep that up. What were you saying, Megan? Sorry, I interrupted.
I was say like it's an interesting thing, like trying to make time to play with your kids. Like it's this dilemma that I think about a lot, like in psychology, but that's in part because like the training program I went to really highlighted this, where like when I'm one-on-one with a client or when I'm running my therapeutic groups, I am 100% there. Like I have to be completely on top of it all. But then like my family kind of doesn't get that best of me. They don't get that level of attention to detail and stuff. And I'm trying to make that not so much. That's why I'm trying to play with my kids in the morning sometimes. Like we might play this afternoon actually, because they've been on the precipice of a magical forest for about 3 weeks and I haven't had them go into it yet. So we'll probably play a little today, but it is hard trying to remember to go and play. And like it's so easy for us to get so swept up in our lives and get busy and to not take that time to be intentional and to connect with our family and to do stuff. Because like there's always stuff to do. Like there's always a floor to mop and laundry to do and all that kind of stuff. And to actually make time to connect with your kids can be really difficult.
Absolutely.
And it's an ongoing source of regret and like, easily changeable, and yet you still somehow continue to make the same mistake, which is a horrible feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's because humans we like predictability, right? We know what we know, and we don't like what we don't know, and so we just stick. Even if it's a bad pattern that we're in, it's so hard for us to break out of it. Which is why I have a job to help people break out of those patterns, right? But like it is a thing to like, yesterday what I wanted to do was to sit down and play some board games, but like my kids are, my older kid doesn't really want to play board games so much anymore. My younger kids, they're at the age where they want to make up all the rules now,
right?
Or play in the way they want to play, and so it's really frustrating. But kind of recognizing like, I'll get to play the way I want to play later. Playing with them as they are right now in this moment isn't going to last. And so taking that time and that attention to be like, nope, let's actually play the way you want to play and do that. It's hard though. Like
it's hard. It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
It really is. And I think like if listeners get nothing else out of that, like understand that like parenting's hard.
Yeah. I do think that that's one of the things, like if there's a teenager or a kid out there listening, I mean, you have to understand that as adults, you're making it up as fast as you can. I mean, you're just trying the best you can. And, you just don't have there's no answers. There is no one way to do it. There's no right way to do it. And you are as liable to make mistakes or susceptible to mistakes as anyone is. And so, in those high stress moments, I make mistakes. I will say that my one saving grace as a parent, I have several saving graces. I think I'm a good dad. I like being a dad, but I have no problem saying sorry. And I can take responsibility for my actions when I do make mistakes. And I think that if I had one superpower, one thing to pass on to young parents, you just have to be able to see when you are ashamed of how you acted and your response is not conducive to the situation after the situation, to go up, to own your energy and to own the space and take responsibility without seeking somebody else to take responsibility is a godsend for a relationship with your kids.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's a good reason too to play these more complicated rule games like Dungeons and Dragons, or like I brought props to show, but like there's a lot of different systems that you can.
Did you bring a child? Is there a child under your desk?
No. I have the games that we play. Tales of Equestria, My Little Pony, because they love My Little Pony. But like, it is being and sometimes that can even be a thing where like you rehearse as a dungeon master, like making a mistake on a call and then like showing, like looking it up in the rule book and be like, I'm wrong. This is how the rule is supposed to go. And like you could, for parents who have a hard time saying that they're wrong, like playing a game and like kind of intentionally screwing up so that you can practice showing that to
modeling mistakes. Yeah.
It's such a powerful tool.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, I don't necessarily have experience being a parent, but I do have experience definitely
making mistakes as a DM, because I think everybody does, and I totally Can I just say, I don't think there are mistakes for a DM. I think that you can make a rule, like the idea of making of making a mistake. I think it's and there is no rules, right? there are sets of rules. Obviously, there's lots of rules, but in the game storytelling, these moments of mistake they're just the way the story went, right? So if you've blown a rule, then it's okay to blow that rule. It doesn't, because I think the only reason I'm jumping in and making no sense whatsoever is because I think that the idea of people going, oh, I don't want to make a mistake. Oh, I don't know the rules well enough, therefore I don't want to DM, inhibits so many people to DMing. And my whole mission as a DM, because I'm a new DM and I have learning disabilities and I've really struggled in my life, like owning my own power and all kinds of things, is that I want to try to break down the wall as much as possible for people to DM. And part of that is like, no, there are no rules. Like, you just play the game how you want to play it, and it's okay. Yeah. Right. And yes, you may make a mistake. And yes, going back and saying, oh, I blew that. I think that's half the battle, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, this is how I interpret the spell. You interpret it that way? Let's have a conversation. I like your way. Let's do that way. Yeah. So that it's not this, so you're not lost in fear and inhibited to DM a game. Because I think that's, the world will be better if everyone DM'd.
Yes.
I agree. I think DMing allows a lot of different like creativity powers in a person, and it definitely helps people kind of create their own solutions to a problem.
For sure.
Well, and I think one of the biggest powers with playing, but also DMing, is teaching conflict resolution, because like I don't know a group that has played together for a long time that doesn't have some form of conflict come up, whether it's disagreement over a rule, disagreement over a choice that the party makes, or whatever. And it's really hard because a lot of things in our culture don't really show us how do you repair a relationship, or how do you work through a challenge. Like when we have two people who disagree and like vehemently get angry at each other, or upset, like how do we repair things? And in character, and sometimes also out of character, D&D and lots of other tabletop role-playing games as well, give us that opportunity to practice that, and to say like, and maybe if it's in character, it's like, wow, my character felt betrayed by your character. How do we mend this? We're still part of the same party, so how do we come back together? How do we figure out how to work together again and move forward? I think our whole culture could use more of that.
Yes, especially right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fenway, we sidetracked you. Asked one question. We went on for 20 minutes. Sorry.
No, that's definitely.
That's the end of the pod, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Jones.
No, it's okay. So Megan, have you seen, what kind of positive effects have you seen with kind of other parents using gaming to connect with their kids?
So many. It's so wonderful. Like just sitting down and spending time with your kids is so important. And like I think that it's just so important to listen to their voices. And that's one of the reasons I like the narrative games as opposed to other board games. Like I love board games in general. Like my house is very full of them. We were talking about collecting earlier. I have a gaming collection problem. But to let them know that their voices matter. And so like when they're encountering an NPC and getting to talk and having what they say really carry weight and carry power, I think is really important. But also like your kids have amazing ideas and really cool concepts of the world and things that it can sometimes be hard to know about them. But when you play a game, like that stuff starts to come out and you can start hearing it. And it's like, okay, I hear this. This is cool. And understanding how they see the world and how they problem solve. Like when they're confronted with something, do they choose to attack or do they choose to try and negotiate? And it's just amazing to be able to sit with your kids and listen and do this stuff. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be, D&D. Like I'm a big fan of the cooperative games. The Forbidden games, so Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and Forbidden Skies are amazing games. Like in therapy practice, I've actually was working with someone who their biggest problem was their kids were fighting all the time. And so I had them come in and I taught them how to play Forbidden Island, and then they bought that and they canceled all their future sessions. To be like, wow, learning how to work together on this game and not compete with each other anymore kind of laid the foundation for us to talk and actually fix things. So board games can be a really great way just to connect with your kids and to, also to teach lessons and all kinds of other things too.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go buy stock in the Forbidden Games now. Hand it out to all my kids.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So kind of back to Matt, what specific part of D&D do you think helps you the most when you are trying to connect with other people?
Well, I mean, look, that's where I spend my friendship. I mean, my friendship hours are spent around a gaming table. So look, that's about recharging. That's about finding the people you love. That's about telling stories for years at a time. I've never laughed harder than I do at a gaming table, specifically playing Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, we've been playing, the 5 of us that started Beadle and Grimm's. 4 of us went to acting school together. We all played as kids. 1 of us continued all the way through while the rest of us took breaks in college and high school. And then we started playing at 21. I'm 50. So we all have been playing together now for 29 years or whatever that is. And look, that's where I revitalize. That's where sitting around a table telling stories is where I find my joy. And I think that, look, to me, the great thing about the game is that it's that fellowship, but you're telling a story. I mean, it's as old as time, right? The idea of sitting around a fire and telling stories is the basis of it's the cradle of civilization. And so to me, that's, once you get into that thing and you're sitting around there eating pizza, drinking soda pop, you end up like something connects in a really deep way. And then for me and my kid, I mean, the great thing about playing with your kids is that, the power of, there's an idea in acting called yes and I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm sure you do, Megan, but the idea of like taking a story and hearing what comes to you is saying yes, and then this is what happened. You're continuing what somebody else is lifting. And the idea of that is so powerful in the world, right? Is like to not neg, to engage in story, to lift somebody else's story and make it your own afterwards is like, that's the greatest life skill I think there is for me personally, right? I mean, I'm sure other people would have other life skills, but that cooperation, the sort of idea of working as a team, those themes that come up around a gaming table are invaluable to raising your kids and your life. Like that's the thing that reminds you of the good things in life.
Yeah. And actually that whole idea of like, yes, and that's what I'm working on, we're working basic math, but like the bigger principle that I'm trying for them to understand is yes, and I've got one kiddo who is very particular, like we're going to play this way, and this is the only way to play. And so trying to teach them to open up to say like, okay, no, build in other people's ideas. And like just yesterday they were taking this game that was more appropriate for when they were like, weenie babies, but they like the toy pieces. And so they were making a new game with it. But then one of them was trying to say like, no, we have to play this way. And the other one's, but I want to play this way. And so coming in and teaching like, how can we yes and this? How can we take what both of you want to do and make it into an even better game?
Can you come over to my house? Like, I know you're in North Carolina. Like my 18-year-old's very good at rules and we just need her to yes and a little. I just need some of your work, please, man. I'll pay for the flight. Come, bring your family.
Awesome.
I'll take them all. Yeah, look, it's that thing where I think that, it goes back to the idea too of courage, right? Is that the kids, people, like when I teach acting, the thing I see constantly is this need to be right, or this need to be, this is the way, this is the correct way. And that's a bunch of bullhickey. I mean, that is just crap. And it's only in failure do we learn anything, right? I mean, in success, you learn very little. But it's in failure, the idea of looking at what's happened and it not working, or watching somebody do a scene and it not working. Do you go, oh, I can understand and I can see where mistakes are being made and I can learn from those moments. So you have to be brave enough to fail. And the thing is that I keep trying to impart on my kids is that there's no one way, and there's no, that failing is the only way to learn and to get better. And that's a really hard thing to sort of articulate.